Because I won't always remember this is the part of my story that the action part of me wanted to pull out because I didn't want to sit still. And those of you that know, if you have to write down something that nobody needs to see, burn it. Then hey now, how is everybody doing? Welcome to Red Alert Diaries with Tanya E. Those of you that have been watching me lately, you know that I've been sharing the story of Robert. Now, Robert was sitting in his car outside the office once again. Same spot, same silence, but this time, something was different. The noise in his head had quieted down just enough for him to hear his own breathing. He'd spent the last few weeks facing the truth, the lies that he often told himself about being fine. The same lies that we often tell ourselves about being fine as well. And if you find yourself in a position where you are carrying the lie of having to do it all alone, there's a couple of things I want to walk you through today. One of the first things that I had to do when I found myself in that same position, do an autopsy. Some of you have heard me share often enough, do an autopsy of what's occurred in your life. When I finally took the time to do an autopsy on the demise of the marriage that I had, I discovered some things. Some moments where I had to take an inventory of being fearless by facing my own emotional wounds. In that situation, I want you to ask yourself, what's triggering you? Because something that happened inside of that moment triggered you. I don't know what it was for you, but for me, hearing my ex tell me things about myself that I once heard others say was a trigger. And in that triggering moment, it made me dredge up all the past things that I once felt and had buried. Some of you are aware of my story about sharing how emotions buried alive will resurrect themselves at the most inopportune time, like my breakdown in the middle of Safeway. I don't want that to be your journey. So take the time to do the autopsy so that you can unearth the triggers that's happening in your world. And when you do that, you'll start seeing patterns repeating in your relationships, because some of us are walking inside of relational moments with the same person. They just got a different face, different name, a different color. Let's walk through that journey a little bit more, because your healing begins with awareness. When you name the pain, you can reclaim your power. And too many of us are allowing the situations in our lives to hold us hostage because we refuse to name what it is. You see, healing wasn't comfortable for Robert either. Healing is not linear. It doesn't look strong. It doesn't feel good. And then those lonely nights, maybe like his lonely nights, the nights when he missed his daughter Maya, the nights when he didn't want to feel what showing up truly looked like by going to therapy. I want you all to know that if you can afford to speak to a therapist about the chaos that's happening in your world, do it. Too many of us are not taking the time to go through therapy. And for those of us in the Black community, as an African American in the United States, therapy is often shunned upon. But I want you to know that it is a good thing for you to find a safe space to share your soul. A lot of us don't feel like what's considered normal therapy is supportive, because we had Big Mama that we often went to, shared our stories, shared our pains. But you may be like me. Your grandmother's no longer here. Or those that represented her generation for you in your heart and your soul, they're not here anymore. So your Big Mama moments of sharing your soul and getting that insight and hearing her wisdom may not be available to you. I miss my grandmother. But I remember some of the lessons that she shared with me, and that's what you're getting a lot in this podcast. So find somebody that you can go through and get the therapy that you need. And for those of you that are aware, I am not a therapist. I'm a coach. So if you're looking for someone to coach you through the process, to give you some insight, well, I give you bits of strategies here on this podcast to support you on the journey. But I encourage you, if I'm not your cup of tea, find somebody that will give you what you need to support you in this thing called life as we navigate the hurdles that often hold us hostage and keep us held back. So let's get back to the story of Robert, where he was sitting in the silence, thinking that he had to fill these moments of silence with work or excuses because he did not really want to dig deep. When you make a decision to start healing, it's going to require some things of you, which is why I often share change the narrative. Journaling gives you the opportunity to reflect, but reflection is not just remembering. Some of those elements of journaling is not just about remembering the pain. A lot of it is about reflecting on what you've gone through so that you can uncover the nuggets that support you on the journey. This is your opportunity to start looking at those moments and rewriting what it looks like for you, rewriting the lessons, rewriting it in your mind by pulling out the lessons. Some of you have heard me often share the story about take the meat and toss the bones. When you're walking through some of the elements of your past, I want you to take the meat, that relationship that you're running from. It wasn't all bad. There were some good pieces in it. And from those good moments, take them, relish them, dissect them. This is that autopsy part. What part of it was good and why? What part of it helped you feel great and why? Revisit those stories and see what you have learned since that moment. And then write the lessons in your journal. Write the lessons of what you gained from that chaos. Write the lessons that you gained from that pain. Write the lessons, especially if you are an individual that finds yourself in a position where you are struggling because you may have been the one that caused the demise of your relationship. I am fully aware that a lot of the chaos that caused the demise of my first marriage had a lot to do with me, my unprocessed pain, my moments of not wanting to dig deep into what occurred in my life. Because when the ex told me some stuff about myself that I did not want to hear, dredging up the past chaotic moments in my existence, that was all Tanya. Tanya not taking the time to deal with it before he ever arrived. So unpack what you need so that your future will not constantly be impacted by those triggers, and rewrite in your journal the things that you need. The new version of Tanya had to write what was good in that moment for me. What did I have to unpack to ensure that I was really whole, and how did I get there? Because going through that chaotic moment forced me to look deep and make some changes. Going through your chaotic moment will do the same for you. So write the lessons so that one day you can give insight to it to share with someone else. Because this podcast and the things that I'm sharing with you, that was unearthed when I chose to journal the lessons from the chaos, from the pain that I felt in that moment. And I want you to do the same. Here's the third thing I want you to walk through. Recognize that restorative moment of healing, it's not just mental, it's physical and spiritual too. So take some action steps along the way. One of the things that I had to do, and I encourage you to do as well, schedule moments of joy. Schedule moments of silence. Schedule moments where you are not planning, where you are not performing, where you don't have to do anything. If you're an action-oriented individual like Robert, you are filling your space of silence with work or busy things so that you don't have to deal with your things. Pause. Schedule the moments of pause. When I got home from work, I scheduled 30 minutes of quiet time. I call it mommy moments, because having my children with me in that journey while you're walking with your babies in tow with your pain and your chaos, you've got to find a buffer. So from the time I left from work and the time I got home to do the mommy things and the household things, I had to find a space where I cleared out the mess that I was dealing with from work so that I don't dump it on my children in the process, but also prepare me to do what they needed me to do for them in those moments. So 30 minutes between work and home. So in that 30 minutes, listen to some music that encourages you, music that inspires you, or maybe for this day and age, an audiobook that is uplifting you along the way. For me, as I'm walking through some of the journey now, because journaling has not ended for me, there's still moments in my life where I go back and I reflect. What was those moments in my life that I can pull a nugget here or there, which is why Red Alert Diaries is still sharing elements of my story with you. And Robert? Robert is the next manifestation to help me support you by sealing in the thoughts for those action-oriented individuals, because I won't always remember this is the part of my story that the action part of me wanted to pull out because I didn't want to sit still. Robert had to sit still in his moments. And in those moments of reflection, I want you to also celebrate, because those of us that are like Robert, we don't celebrate our wins. We don't celebrate our victories. We go from one task to the next, one thing that we've accomplished to the next, and we don't pause. It's in the pause that you find greater strength, greater assurance, and the confidence that you will need to make changes as life continues to move. And so for today, if you don't remember anything else, here's what I need you to remember. Looked at me like I was crazy, but I knew what I had to do. It was time for him to go. So I packed up his things. Red Alert, is he the one? The pocket guide, the find and love of your life, tells my story. The free chapter is available for you in the link below. Do the emotional autopsy. Take the time that you need to evaluate what you walk through and journal. And when you start to journal, replace the reflection with renewal. There are moments when you are remembering the story, remembering the moments. If you have a moment that keeps bubbling up through your soul, feel it, write it. And those of you that know, if you have to write down something that nobody needs to see, burn it. Then last thing, make certain that you create those moments that help you restore, be it your music, celebrating your wins, taking that break in between so that you can have a mental moment to just get the healing that you need moment by moment, because a minute may be too long. And if anything that I've shared resonates with you, then it's time to reset. So like, comment, and share this information with others. But before I leave, I want to leave you with a next level note, because this conversation about Robert has reminded me of a story about David. Now, a lot of people know the story about David and Goliath. You can hear that story over and over again and find encouragement in it. But there's other parts to that story that isn't often shared. You see, David had a moment where he ruined a relationship. That breakdown was all his fault. You don't often hear about the Bible stories where the breakdown is the fault of the individuals that are in it. And because he had that broken relationship that he started, it trickled down to his children and his children's children. And we find a lineage of chaos, unfortunately. But here's the thing that gives us hope. David paused. David paused enough to journal what was going on with him and start reflecting over some moments of his life so that he can reset. It is in the resetting that we read Psalm 51, where David shared his chaos and his pain. I want you to recognize that the Bible is a strategy guide that gives you principles and processes to support you on the journey. And if you take the time to look at the patterns that exist in there, you'll find principles that will give you insight about how to get through it. Because that statement that I shared with you earlier about using your journaling, not just for remembering, but to take the lessons of your life out of it. I got that from David's life. And in the moment of gathering, how journaling out of David's life gave him insight about how he could springboard moving forward in his future to do better. He became the great king that a lot of people remember. You will also unearth your greatness that a lot of people will remember. So if you're walking through pain right now because you feel like the situation that you are in, the brokenness in that relationship is because of something that you did, take this time to heal, because it's in your healing that you make certain that that chaotic moment that existed in your past will not be a chaotic moment that still continues in your future. You would have healed enough to let others be a part of your journey. You would have healed enough to be able to share some insights and some lessons. It's in David's story that I learned that healing starts when you stop hiding and start writing. And so today, take this moment to apply the strategies to support you in your healing, not to relive your pain, but to rewrite your life with purpose so that you can reset and rebuild. And if you want someone to join you on the journey, feel free to go to my website, TanyaEhood.com. There you can click under the Work With Me tab and see the various ways that we can work with one another. In the meantime, this is Tanya E. Hood, walking in my purpose, and I want you to do the same.